Idris is the co-chair of Abraham's Tent, one of Calgary's largest interfaith groups. He's currently the secretary of the Muslim Association of Calgary and the co-founder of the Alberta Youth Extrajudicial Sanctions Committee. Past advisor to the Calgary Board of Education and Boy Scouts of Americas on issues concerning racial and interreligious education and integration. He also was the liaison to the United States Consul General's office. He was born and raised in Canada, received his BA, born and raised in Calgary, I should say, received his BA from the U of C, majoring in law and society, and with a concentration in legal history, and he's one of ours from religious studies.
The first act of racism was when God asked Satan to bow to Adam, and he proclaimed that he would do no such thing because he is made of fire and Adam is made of clay. We've suffered some form of racism ever since. I do believe, just like my co-panelist, Reverend Gregory, that religion is the cure for racism. All of our respective religions working in unison, recognizing a common problem and identifying a common goal, and that is to coexist and work together and love each other to glorify God, which is essentially what we are here to do and what we're called to do. Islam is made up of three fundamental duties: the duty that a human being has to God, the duty that a human being has to himself or herself, and the duty that human beings have to each other. The issue of racism actually falls into all three categories because it corrupts your duty to God, it corrupts your duty to yourself, and it most certainly corrupts your duty to others. And it is something that is addressed very heavily in our scripture. I'm very privileged and fortunate because I get to have the benefit of the Bible as well in the Islamic faith, and we refer back to it, and much of our scripture is based on those sources and those prophecies and those scriptures. So much of what the good rabbi and the good reverend spoke about today, I'm 100% backing. So, the verse from the Quran, because I was asked to talk about the Quran and some hadith, which are stories. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into tribes and nations so that you may know each other and not that you may despise each other. Verily the most honored of you in the sight of God is he who is most righteous of you. Which is again a way of basically saying that we are all equal in the sight of God but for our deeds. And racism is the greatest corrupter of good deeds to God, to yourself, and to your common man, or woman as it were. And amongst his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and variation of your languages and colors. Verily in these signs, verily in there are signs for people of knowledge. We look at racial diversity as one of the miracles of God, in fact, not something that we are going to struggle against, but something that when we see, we praise his name as a result of this infinite wonder, like the good rabbi said, that we're all completely different, but we're all very much the same. This is something of a miracle. If we can speak in terms of miracles, that is a miraculous feat, and it should be honored and it should be respected, and it's something that should bring us back to God and his message, however we might interpret that message and wherever we might get that message. And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and diversity of your tongues and colors. Indeed, there are signs for people of knowledge. Even language in a different part of the Quran is meant to be something that again, we're supposed to honor and respect and attempt to learn from each other as a result of. O people, verily your Lord is one, and your father Adam is one. There is no favoritism of an Arab over a foreigner, nor a foreigner over an Arab, neither red skin over black skin, nor black skin over red skin, except through righteousness you all belong to Adam, and Adam is from dust. What this verse says to me is that we need not glorify ourselves over other people. We are all essentially the same, and we will end up very much the same. And we will be judged on our deeds. And there's very little we can get away from the fact that we have to acknowledge that we can achieve extraordinary things working together. Hate has never built anything that endured. Love has built everything that has endured, and love will continue to build things that will endure. And hate is a destroyer of things, and a destroyer of tribes, and a destroyer of nations, and a destroyer of people. It's folly to advocate any type of ideology that advocates hate, because you hurt everything that you touch, including yourself, and it's a corruption of the planet in which we all have to inhabit together. Racial diversity is described by God as a sign of wonder at the intricacies of his creation. It's a point of study and understanding in humankind. It encourages tolerance and harmony, as well as intellectual study of anthropology, history, sociology, genealogy, and even science, and understanding the diversity of humankind. What this says to me is that we are completely bereft of any type of worthy knowledge if we ignore what other people have contributed and what other people will contribute. And indeed, our very religion, Islam, is based on what has been before it. And without that, there couldn't be an Islam. It is very true that what is happening outside of rooms like this in countries as wonderful as ours, that there are some pretty terrible things that are happening in the name of religion. This is a fact. There's no getting around it. I would hope that everybody in this room, again I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, that they would judge religions based on its teachings rather than the way bad people interpret religion to serve their own purposes. Islam and the Islamic world right now is in upheaval. An upheaval that that is unprecedented. It hurts me as a Muslim to see my beautiful faith, my wonderful teachings being twisted in such a way that would encourage anything other than loving your neighbor, wanting for your neighbor what you want for yourself, losing sleep if your neighbor is hungry. That's what I was taught. And I'm not a product of a neo-modern Islam. I was raised Muslim. I went to Islamic school. I attended, adopted any new beliefs or any modern beliefs. That everything that I know about Islam is from the religion that I was taught in school and the scripture that I read. And my mom growing up in Egypt, in Shubra, which is an ancient home for Christians and for Jews. My mother grew up in a town where it was predominantly Christian, and she didn't really know too much about Islam growing up, and before she had difficult exams, she used to go with her Christian friends to church, and they used to write their prayers, and they used to leave it at the feet of the saints. And it was only up until she came to Canada that she reflected on that and said that she was very happy to have had that experience because it made her love people deeper and bigger and greater. My experience with Interfaith for the past over a decade has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. Not necessarily because of this idea that, the more we get to know each other, the more we get to find out how similar we are. That's good. But what's better is understanding how different we are and learning from each other and trying to accept these lessons that other people have to teach you. I've always struggled with that word tolerance, religious tolerance and tolerance and tolerance. For me, tolerance is a bit of an objectionable word. It actually means that you see something that you don't like or hear something that you don't like and you tolerate it. I prefer loving and respecting. I do believe that that's where we're going, and I recognize that we are in a place in Canada that is a singular place in the world where things like this, meetings like this, do not happen in most places on this planet. It's really important to recognize that because there's so much responsibility on our shoulders because of this extraordinary gift that God endowed us with, the gift that our voice matters, and that meetings like this will echo in eternity and it will speak to the glory of our faith when it's not fettered by conflict and when it's not soiled by men with guns. And I'm very privileged to be here at this table with my co-panelists, and I'm privileged to be a part of this group and in your company, and I thank you very much for listening to me.